Good evening. Tonight, military says airstrikes by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole have destroyed Boko Haram logistics base, including their armory in Nuwa, Borno State. Members of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria renewed their call for the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife. NAFDAC vows to ensure COVID-19 vaccines to be administered to Nigerians are safe, insists no vaccine will be brought into the country without regulatory approval. And incumbent president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, wins the country's presidential poll to extend his rule by another 5 years. Plus, you see business and sports.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's total mutual funds assets grow by 43% as investors' appetite for fixed income markets attracts over 200 billion naira in 2020.
And on sports news, Arsenal FC midfielder Mesut Ozil inches closer to joining Turkish club Fenerbahce after agreeing in principle to terminate his contract with the English FA Cup champions.
Now, as the war against insurgency rages on, the military appears to have scored a major hit on the terrorists, as it says Boko Haram training camp and ammunition storage have been destroyed in the latest airstrikes by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole. This was announced in a statement by the Coordinator Defense Media Operation, Major General John Enenche, who states that several terrorists were also neutralized at Nuwa in the Bama area of Borno State. He adds that the airstrikes carried out on Thursday, January 14th, followed intelligence reports indicating that the cluster of huts and other structures in the settlement were being used to conduct combat training for the terrorists on a regular basis. According to him, the Air Task Force followed with a series of confirmatory area surveillance missions and dispatched an appropriate force package of Nigerian Air Force helicopter gunships for a night air raid on the location. The helicopters were said to have scored devastating hits in the target area, destroying structures, including the terrorist armory, where multiple mini explosions were observed amidst the raging fire. Meanwhile, troops of the Nigerian Armed Forces have repelled an attempted seizure of a military base in Mate local government area, also in Borno State. Troops of Operation Tura Takabango, in conjunction with the air component of Operation Lafia Dole, were said to have stood their ground when the terrorists launched what was meant to be a surprise attack on their base. The Defense Headquarters explains in a statement that 7 gun trucks belonging to suspected Boko Haram militia were destroyed in the encounter, and that unconfirmed number of the insurgents were also killed in that encounter. Meanwhile, the Kaduna state government has been giving an update on the security situation in the state, which has been ravaged by activities of bandits and kidnappers in recent times. The government says troops of the Nigerian military killed several bandits during an operation in Beningwari local government area. According to the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, the Nigerian Air Force sighted the bandits on motorcycles at Saulawa, Kaduru and Farinruwa communities. He says more bandits were sighted with herds of cattle on the road from Ngwanyako to Kuduru, where they were engaged and neutralized by the troops. He adds that intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance flights were conducted over the Kaduna-Abuja highway at Kilbu and Barabari, where normal activities were observed, noting that regular ground and air patrols will continue in the identified areas of security interest. And away from security, members of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, otherwise known as Shiites, have renewed their demand for the release of their embattled leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, his wife, and other members of the group still in detention. The chairman Resource Forum of the IMN, Professor Abdullahi Danladi, said that 4 years after a federal high court freed Sheikh El-Zakzaky and his wife, the federal government has refused to obey the court order. Professor Danladi, who was addressing a news conference in Kaduna, notes that failure to obey court orders by government is totally unacceptable.
Today marks the 4th anniversary of the expiration of the 45 days caveat within which Buhari-led government has been ordered to release our leader Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaky. In a historic judgment delivered by Justice Gabriel Kolale of the Abuja Division of the Federal High Court on the enforcement of his fundamental rights and that of his wife, Malama Zina Ibrahim. Failure to obey the judgment by President Buhari for 4 years on and counting makes it one of the worst violations of the rule of law and monumental abuse of rights of the couple. The land juries had ruled that the continued detention of the duo violates their rights under Section 35, subsection 1 of the Nigerian Constitution and the provisions of the African Charter on human and people's rights. Consequently, he ordered the release of the alien Sheikh and his wife within 45 days of the judgment, and that both be provided with a suitable accommodation and security. The court further ordered the payment of 50 million naira by the federal government to both of them.
And to health matters, as the government gets set to begin distribution of COVID-19 vaccines in the country, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is reassuring Nigerians about the safety of the approved vaccines. The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, says no vaccine will be brought into the country without regulatory approval, and the agency is working with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC to properly evaluate incoming vaccines before they are made available to the public. The NAFDAC boss was speaking on our weekend program, Sunrise.
People started talking about that primary health is bringing 100,000 doses of vaccines. Yeah, there's nothing wrong in bringing 100,000 doses of vaccines. That is their primary job. However, that vaccine must pass through NAFDAC. We have to use scientific approach to ensure that the monitoring of it, the pharmacovigilance of it, once it is given to the patient, will be properly done. Because COVID vaccine is not ordinary vaccine. Even after the phase 3 clinical trials that were done, there are still things that even the manufacturer doesn't understand. Because what you give to 20,000, 25,000 people may reveal some things there, but when you give to the larger population, you may start seeing some other things. When you give to a different population, Black Africans, you may be seeing different things. That is one of the reasons why it is extremely important to let the public know that NAFDAC will do the due diligence to ensure that the vaccine is well evaluated before it is made available or before it is approved, and therefore it can be used after.
And as part of the measures to curb the spread of the virus, public servants on grade levels 14 and below in Lagos State are to continue working from home until February the 1st, 2021. This directive was issued today by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu following the spike in the number of coronavirus infections, with the state's latest daily cases put at 713. Governor Sanwo-Olu's order is contained in a circular to members of the State Executive Council and all heads of ministries, departments and agencies. According to the state government, the aim is to curtail the second wave of COVID-19 in the state. However, essential duty staff as well as first responders are excluded from the directive. The second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic appears to be taking a toll on the nation. A major concern for the authorities is to win the battle against the deadly virus. But this time, states are expected to play a key role in this regard after the federal government asked states to take control of the campaign. although Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory are worst hit by the pandemic. Our next report takes a look at what some other states are putting in place to stem the COVID-19 second wave.
On December 17, 2020, the Presidential Task Force formally announced the second wave of COVID-19 in the country.
We have entered a second wave of infections, and we stand the risk of not just losing the gains from the hard work of the last 9 months, but also not losing the precious lives of our dear citizens.
So far, over 107,000 cases have been confirmed across the country, with 1,413 deaths recorded and 84,535 patients treated and discharged. The deadly virus is one that must not be taken for granted, according to the government, which is why states are now taking charge of the fight to curb its spread. In Anambra State, the need to adhere to the protocols appear now to resonate with traders who've shown some level of compliance in keeping safe.
We're taking every necessary measure to make sure that the market, we are taking the guideline, the instruction the government are giving us.
The state has also put in place protective centers to contain the pandemic in the 3 senatorial zones. The protective center at the Immaculate Heart Multi-Specialty Aguilera is a 28-bed facility equipped to serve even emergency purposes.
For COVID-19, most patients, the saturation pressure of oxygen will go down. Low SpO2 for us is anything below 84 thereabout. But then, as you can see, the Commissioner's own in situ now, 99% out of 100.
2 other protective centers, including one in Onitsha, serve similar purposes.
When you go in there, you realize that each of the rooms have a lot of gadgets, centrally piped oxygen, rooms built in suite, and then ventilators.
All health facilities.
Ahead of the arrival of the much-expected vaccine in Ekiti, the state has taken delivery of 187 solar direct drive cold chain equipment to help in the storage of vaccines, with 44 more units still being expected. 2 laboratories have also been set up, one located at the State Teaching Hospital and the other at the Afe Babalola University. And the state government says its sensitization efforts will be increased to convince the people about the reality of COVID-19.
This second wave, which is not only a wave, but it's infectious, highly infectious, in fact, that's what it is, has gotten probably to Ekiti. So that's why we're taking these proactive steps.
Sensitization on safety is also a point of emphasis in Cross River State, as seen on the streets with residents wearing face masks. However, not much is in place for the care of COVID-19 patients, and the government is calling for help in this regard.
So we want to plead with the federal government to ensure that we have our laboratories running as soon as possible so that we can be able to test 450 samples from each local government every 2 weeks.
The safety awareness campaign may also have been stepped up in Borno State, where residents seem to be oblivious of the danger lurking around them as they are seen going about their normal activities without the use of face masks. A visit to the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital in the capital shows an empty isolation center, but state officials say they are focusing on other ways of prevention to reduce fatalities during the second wave.
What we are doing now is to ensure that the molecular lab in Omorusho is fully activated and working, and we're also in the process of setting up another one in Biu to take care of cases and tests from the southern part of the state.
As the nation battles with the coronavirus pandemic, the clamor for safety and preventive measures continues as government at all levels look forward to the arrival of the approved vaccines.
In part two, after the break, Kogi State government sets aside 3 billion naira to assist the vulnerable and small businesses to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Military says airstrikes by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole have destroyed Boko Haram logistics base, including their armory in Nuwa, Borno State. Members of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria renew their call for the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife. NAFDAC vows to ensure COVID-19 vaccines to be administered to Nigerians are safe, insists no vaccine will be brought into the country without regulatory approval. An incumbent president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, wins the country's presidential poll to extend his rule by another 5 years. £3 billion has been set aside in the 2021 budget of the Kogi State government to improve the livelihood of the vulnerable and small enterprises in the state who have suffered from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The state government announced this during a meeting with members of the Kogi COVID-19 Action Recovery Stimulus Cares program, promising that small and medium-scale business enterprises will be assisted to grow.
This is a post-COVID-19 pandemic program tagged COVID-19 Action Recovery and Economic Stimulus, a sensitization program organized by the Kogi State government with the Kogi State Community and Social Development Agency as the implementing partner. The program is to ameliorate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the people of the state.
Industrializing the state.
In his opening speech, the KG Cares focal person and State Commissioner for Finance, Budget and Economic Planning, Asiwaju Idris, noted that the essence of KG Cares was to mitigate the effect of the harsh economic environment caused by COVID-19.
Let me use this opportunity to express profound gratitude to His Excellency Adelo for this proactive engagement and leadership, both at Governors Forum and at our committee level, to push this program this far, with the objective of mitigating the prevailing harsh economic effect on our disadvantaged household and family.
The Obaro of Kaba, in his goodwill message, appeals to the government to religiously adhere to outlined programs in the interest of the people.
I wish to commend the organizers of this seminar for this kind gesture and to appeal to government to religiously adhere to the projects as already outlined.
While declaring the program open on behalf of the governor, the secretary to the state government charged the Kogi State Community and Social Development Agency to ensure that the program benefits the state, assuring that all bureaucratic bottlenecks that can hinder the implementation of the program will be resolved.
Let you know too that the government will adhere strictly to the programs of the end care. Strictly, I repeat. We will adhere to it and we'll make sure that by God's grace, everything works out well for the benefits of Kogites.
It is hoped that the government will match words with action, ensuring that the program is implemented as soon as possible.
And the danger posed by COVID-19 is not lost on the governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, who is warning residents on the reality of the second wave. He is stressing on the need for people to observe the COVID-19 safety protocols as the state possesses lean resources to combat the pandemic. The governor made the appeal at the government house in Damaturu, the state capital, while receiving 3 customized ambulances and PPEs, personal protective equipment, donated by Bua Foundation.
Since the outbreak of the coronavirus in Nigeria, Yobe is one of the states with few reported cases. Available records, however, reveal that the state is currently experiencing a slight increase in the number of infections. As at the second week of January 2021, Yobe State had recorded 207 confirmed cases, as against 180 cases reported by the end of December 2020. The state has also recorded 8 deaths from COVID-19 complications.
For the samples of the face masks, thank you, sir.
Efforts to assist the state government to manage the pandemic is the reason why BUA Foundation is donating these ambulances and personal protective equipment to the state government.
I think that there will be not enough support for the Yobe State if there is any willing person or any institutions that have the capacity, because already there are challenges here that need to be supported, and more importantly also, this pandemic has not really spared anybody. It has not spared any state, and in keeping with that, the chairman saw it fit that to support Yobe State is also doubly helping the state, because the ambulances can be useful in other forms apart from even conveying COVID-19 patients.
For the state governor, the donations came at the right time.
We thank the BUA Foundation and the chairman of the BUA Foundation, Alhaji Abdul Samad, for this gesture. This donation is coming at the right time because of the second wave of the pandemic. I want to use this opportunity to draw the attention of our citizens to adhere strictly to the protocols of the public protocols.
With the donation of these ambulances, the government is hopeful that case management will be upscaled and help to minimize fatality across the state.
And to politics, where election to fill positions across 44 local government areas of Kano State has been held across the state. Although the process has been characterized by challenges from the People's Democratic Party having different factions as well as court orders, the poll had 12 political parties vying for the 44 chairmanship and 384 councillorship positions. Our channel's television correspondent, Nanchin Vincent, reports.
The ancient city had an ambience of quiet as local government elections held today in all 44 local government areas in Kano State. Although there were restrictions on movements, some communities went about commercial activities. The election is slated for 8 a.m. but voting materials started arriving at about 10 a.m. in most polling units as voters sit and wait for electoral officers to commence the process. The Kano State Independent Electoral Commission explains the delay.
It was around 10 o'clock then the issue was with the ballot paper and the rest of the sensible materials. So that's why we are late. But now, thank God that we have distributed everything now. The one that they are going to start their work now.
Some of the voters expressed satisfaction with the process.
So far, so good. It's been calm. The local government election is calm. And you can see the turn-up is not too bad. So I don't know, basically, the environment, the security, they are intact. So to everything being equal, we're having it nice here.
Kano State Commissioner for Information, Mohammed Garba, has also described the exercise as a litmus for the next general elections in 2023.
We are gradually preparing for 2023 election. And as I said in the previous interviews, those who are going to emerge as either local government chairmen or councillors across the 484 wards that we have in Kano depends on the candidate that was presented by the various political parties. Our prayer and hope is that the election will continue this way, and at the end of it all, whoever emerges, I think that will be the choice of the people.
The Kano State Police Command is also satisfied with the conduct of the elections.
So far, so good. We are going around particularly to see the security situation, to see how the police are doing their job, because they have to ensure that everything is in orderly manner. And then so far, at least I'm impressed with what I've seen.
The security agencies are all over the place ensuring that people do not loiter around the town, but come down to cast their votes. It's been relatively peaceful, and the conduct has been very orderly. In Kano State, we have 11,500 polling units and 484 wards across the 44 local government areas of the state. It is expected that at the end of this exercise, those who come out as chairmen and councillors in all the 44 local government areas, it would have been an election that would say it's free and fair. From Yakase Ward, Kano State Metropolis, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
In 7 out of 8 cases listed for mention by the Lagos State Judicial Panel on restitution for victims of SARS and other related matters failed to go on today. The cases were largely stalled by the absence of the petitioners or their counsel, as they were all coming up for hearing for the first time. The panel, however, ordered the issuance of hearing notices to the petitioners, thereby giving another chance for their petitions to be heard. The only petitioner whose case went on, Mrs. Gloria Eze, a petty trader who walks with the aid of crutches, told the panel how a policeman crushed her leg with a vehicle sometime in June 2006. While narrating her ordeal, she broke down in tears at intervals and asked the panel to help her get monetary compensation and justice for the pain she's had to live with for over 5 years.
We are begging them from 10:30 to 11, 12:01. The man pushed me, hold the gun, say, I'll kick you. I'll cock this gun for you, or you get away. I said, no, please. This money that you are demanding to this driver, I don't have it. Put me to cell. Tomorrow morning, I will call my people. They'll come and bail me here. Instead of you to hit me, you are gone. I pleaded to the man. The man didn't allow me. By the time I said begging him, say, what I want from you is to put me to cell. In the morning, I will call my people. I pleaded till 1 o'clock. The man refused. All their petrol, all of them have already gone. It remain only the man. Instead of that, he pushed us that I should leave. What I see is that he drive the motor, come and crush my leg. I'm begging them to plead with this petition for me, that they will help me to grant justice, for me to be carried leg up and down. It's okay now.
And we switch to a little bit of entertainment, where in Nollywood, controversies around intellectual property are beginning to emerge around some of the popular productions. A present scenario is that of an investigative journalist alleging copyright infringement on a movie that the producers have also admitted to have been inspired by her work for an online newspaper. This next report seeks to answer some of the pertinent questions around film adaptation and use of already existing intellectual property.
Copyright lawyer Justin Ige breaks down the contention over who owns the intellectual property to a piece of work done for a newspaper, magazine, or any other journal, with reference to the Nigerian Copyright Act Section 10, subsection 13.
But you see, in the case of a newspaper, like in the instance case, right, the employer has right over the work, but the right is limited. And the right is only limited to maybe giving authorizations for publications and things like that, not for adaptation into a movie, unless there is an express express written agreement transferring the full copyright of that literary work.
Twists. Can the producer claim ownership?
The likelihood of similarity in terms of a single plot is high, but the likelihood of similarity in terms of 3 different plots, one major plot, 2 subplots, and all of that is less. And then you have to look at the scenes, because in the story you can find scenes, and then in the movie you can find, once you find similar scenes, once you find similar characters, what was taken, so to say, from the literary work, right, is substantial. Substantial. In law, substantial doesn't necessarily mean length. It could mean in terms of the quality, the actual substance.
Entertainment lawyer Onyikosola Foza Fayomi also explains the position of the law on a third scenario of copyright claims over a storyline that resembles an event in life of an individual.
So let's be clear, IP doesn't protect your idea. IP protects work. So if you have something that happened to you and you didn't write it down and document it into a work, which is a literary work, or you didn't film it for it to become a cinematographic work, or you didn't take a picture for it to become a photographic work, copyright cannot protect that. So if I saw something happen to you and I made a story, I wrote a story out of it, and I made a story out of it, it's my copyright.
While the courts is the final stage to test the law, the industry right now is watching to see how these controversies are resolved to help practitioners navigate the many copyright landmines in the creative world.
And to other stories now. Households ravaged by flooding in Niger State in 2020 have started receiving relief materials as part of the intervention by the federal government. Food items, clothing and building materials worth millions of naira are some of the items presented to the victims by the National Emergency Management Agency. During the distribution in Minna, the state capital, the government also revealed plans to mitigate flood disaster in 2021. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
The 2020 flood disaster is one the victims cannot forget in a hurry. Houses destroyed, farmlands washed away, and at least 10 persons killed. More than 100 communities were affected at the time in 21 local government areas out of the 25 local government areas in the state. The federal government is however reaching out to victims in 6 local government areas with items expected to cushion the effects of their sufferings.
The relief materials approved by the federal government today include food and non-food items, as well as building materials. These items are to be shared to 2,139 households across the affected local governments.
Beyond the interventions, the state government is looking into finding lasting solutions to issues of perennial flood disaster.
We have a greater synergy between Niger State Emergency Management Agency and National Emergency Management Agency. So also the state government and the federal government are seriously collaborating to ensure our people are out of this year in, year out troubles of flooding.
The gesture is appreciated by the victims and a lawmaker representing some of the benefiting local governments.
For us to have been given this accelerated attention, I think is something that is commendable. And we may not be there yet, but it's quite good that we're here, we're where we are today.
I'm very delighted about this gesture by the federal government. It is a thing that is coming at a time we need it most, and we want to appreciate it, and we are looking forward to more of this kind of gesture.
During this flood, we lost everything. But with this relief material from the federal government and Nesima here, we said thank you very much.
The rains will soon be here, and many communities are on the edge, waiting to see what solution the state government will bring on board. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's total mutual funds assets grow by 43% as investors' appetite for fixed income markets attracts over 200 billion naira in 2020. That's on Business News. Join us again. We take you to River State, where the governor, Nyesom Wike, has concluded the second week of project commissioning in the state with the inauguration of an internal road network in Ogubolo local government area. He used the occasion to ask local government chairmen in River State to be more responsive to the plight of the people at the grassroots, as the state government can no longer bear the responsibilities of the councils. The commissioning of the road was performed by the former governor of Gombe State, Ibrahim Dakwambo.
It's been a busy week for Governor Nyesom Wike and members of his cabinet as they traverse nooks and crannies of River State commissioning projects. The 7-kilometer reinforced concrete internal road network in this riverine community of Bolo in Ogubolo local government area is the 11th project to be inaugurated by the Wike administration within 11 days in 2021. Governor Wike and his special guest, the former governor of Gombe State, Ibrahim Dakwambo, are thrilled to watch the rich cultural dance steps of the people who are happy with the transformation of their community. For Governor Wike, it is not enough to always commend the state government for executing projects. The local government chairman must also take a cue from his administration's commitment.
I cannot continue to accept most of the responsibilities are given to the states. And now most local governments abandon their own responsibility. I will not agree to that again. Anybody who wants to go back for chairmanship must show us what the person has done in that local government. Because we must bring people who are willing, who are committed to work for the people.
Before commissioning the road network, former Governor Dakwambo commends Governor Wike's effort, urging people of Bolo to continue to support his administration.
I know I have been going around several states, and I'm also a little bit familiar with what is going on around some parts of River State. But I must state today, this is the first time I come to this part of River State. I am impressed, I'm very happy, and I commend you. If you cannot see his project, you are perpetually blind. The glory of Almighty God and for the benefit of our people.
Despite the number of projects commissioned so far, Governor Wike is promising to inaugurate more in the days ahead under his urban renewal and regeneration agenda.
Meanwhile, some leaders in the Niger Delta have applauded President Muhammadu Buhari for repositioning the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, to fast-track the development of the region. They made the comments after a meeting with officials of the Federal Amnesty Program and the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs at the palace of the traditional ruler of Okochiri in Okrika local government area of River State.
River State Traditional Leaders Council making their way to the venue for a crucial meeting. They are gathered here alongside the federal government delegation led by Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, at the palace of the Amayanabo of Okochiri, King Ateke Tom, to discuss happenings in the Niger Delta region and to commend President Muhammadu Buhari for appointing Mr. Effiong Oka as the NDDC interim administrator. Senator Akpabio addresses the traditional rulers, commending them for bringing unity back to the Niger Delta, even as ex-agitators wait outside to find out the outcome of the discussions. As the cameras line up, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs has some words of encouragement for the youth of the Niger Delta region.
We must find ways to develop modalities of moving this region forward. We have too many unemployed youths, and therefore we must find ways to bring in foreign direct investment and also build industries, even small and medium-scale industries. So many federal government projects and programs are not taken advantage of by the youths of the Niger Delta.
Interim Administrator, Presidential Amnesty Program, Colonel Milan Diko, retired, says his office is working to reposition the program by transforming ex-agitators into entrepreneurs.
We want to ensure that if we say somebody is empowered, it's either an entrepreneur who can stand on his feet or is so well trained that he can compete for any job on his own steam, not because he's from Niger Delta, but because he's qualified to hold that appointment.
A communique is presented from King Ateke Tom and the traditional rulers over the government's gesture. The stakeholders expect that all youth groups come together and cooperate with the new leadership of the NDDC to help develop the Niger Delta, even as government gives an assurance that President Buhari means well for the region.
Let's switch to business now. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Latest data from the Securities and Exchange Commission shows that total mutual funds assets grew by 43% in 2020, largely driven by the inflow in fixed income and bond mutual funds. Further details shows that assets under management by fund managers grew to 1.49 trillion naira in 2020, with fixed income funds attracting 290.50 billion naira in investment, closing the year with a 29.10% share of the total mutual fund. The report also states that the low yield witnessed in treasury bills, which dampened investors' appetite, led to the reduced allocation to money market funds from 73% at the start of the year to 49% as at year end. Meanwhile, real estate and money market funds were the biggest losers, shedding a combined 31.59 billion naira within 12 months. Meanwhile, the local equities market posted its first weekly gain by 1.56% for the new year as the all-share index advanced 2.63%, crossing the 41,000 psychological level. The equity cap also reached new highs during the week, rising to 21.530 trillion naira. Total turnover of volume, value and deals were higher this week as investors exchanged 3.44 billion shares worth over 32 billion naira in 30,327 deals. All the sectors we track closed the week positive, with insurance posting the strongest gain. Analysts expect that the outcome from the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee, scheduled for next week, will shape the market substantially. The average price paid by consumers for premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, increased by 14% year-on-year from 145 naira to 167 naira in December, largely due to deregulation of the downstream implemented by the federal government in 2020. The price of petrol in Nigeria has witnessed significant fluctuation in recent months, owing to the unstable price of Brent crude in the oil market, buoyed by moves by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries to restore market stability, which has been dampened by the coronavirus pandemic. According to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics today, Abia, Kwara and Kebbi recorded the highest average price of petrol, while Kaduna, Katsina and Bauchi states had the lowest average price. Pensioners would have to wait for a bit longer as the Pension Transitional Arrangements Directorate has again postponed the planned resumption of walk-in verification exercise scheduled for Tuesday, January the 19th, 2021, indefinitely. A statement by PTAD explains that the verification exercise, which was to hold nationwide, has been suspended in line with the federal government's directive on measures to help curb the spread of the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic. PTAD noted noted that the suspension will also affect pensioners under the Civil Service Pension Department, the Police Pensions Department, and the Customs Immigration, Prisons Pension Department, and Parastatal Pension Department. And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Taniola. And to some sports news, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Millicent. Sokoto State Government has mandated the management and technical team of the Sokoto United team to gain promotion to the Niger Professional Football League next season. The State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal, says the team must reciprocate its gesture by ensuring it featured in the elite division of Nigerian Football League system within 1 year. The Governor promised to continue to use sports to empower the youth and discourage youth restiveness occasioned by high level of unemployment. He also rewarded players of the state handball team, Rima Strikers, for their outstanding performances at the National Handball Premier League in Abuja in November last year.
We'll continue to motivate our team, male and female athletes, to remain committed to practice and encourage our people to indulge in physical activities as roadmap to the achievement of the national development goals related to healthy living, economic growth, sustainability, and excellence. Finally, I wish to call on the Sokoto United Club Caliphate Stars and winners of the under-12 and 15 handball teams, officials and supporters to be truly united and maintain the tempo towards winning more trophies for the state. The Sokoto United Football Club should work hard towards securing promotion to the Nigeria Professional Football League in the next football season.
It's a welcome call because just as you used to say, result does not come only in the field of play. And my happiness is that the Honorable Commissioner, the entire government of Sokoto, they are ready to be behind the team.
Rangers International will face MFM in the Matchday 5 fixture of the Niger Professional Football League at the Agege Stadium in Lagos on Sunday. The 7-time champions say their target is to earn a victory over the Olukoya boys. Both sides have won 9 games, drawn 3 games and lost 3 matches in their previous 9 meetings in the top flight. Rangers are second on the table with 9 points, while MFM are 7th with 7 points. The Flying Antelopes will be without inspirational midfielder Ibrahim Olawani and defence stalwart Isaac Lute to injuries. Arsenal FC midfielder Mesut Ozil have reached an agreement in principle to terminate the German's contract 6 months before it expires so he can seal a move to Turkish club Fenerbahce. Ozil has not played for the Gunners since March last year and was left out of the Premier League and Europa League squads at the start of the season. Ozil, one of Arsenal's highest paid players, is free to negotiate a pre-contract with other clubs as he is in the final 6 months of his contract with the London side. Reports say Fenerbahce will sign the former German international who has Turkish ancestry for 3.5 years. In the English Premier League, Mason Mount broke the resistance of 10-man Fulham as Chelsea laboured their way to only a second win in 7 games. West Brom grabbed a survival lifeline after Mateus Pereira's penalty double helped seal a thrilling derby win at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Brighton boosted their survival hopes as Neil Maupay's winner against Leeds ended a run of 9 games without a win. Michail Antonio scored his first goal since October last year as West Ham defeated Burnley at the London Stadium. And St Mirren and Kilmarnock have succeeded in overturning a 3-0 defeat imposed by the Scottish Professional Football Leagues for matches postponed by COVID-19 outbreaks. St Mirren were issued with 2 3-0 defeats and suspended $55,000 after being found to have breached COVID-19 protocols when an outbreak forced the cancellation of games against Hamilton and Motherwell in October last year. And that sports news is back to you, Millicent.
Many thanks, Ayotunde. Uganda's election commission has declared incumbent Yoweri Museveni the winner of the presidential election, extending his 35-year rule amid accusations of vote rigging by his main rival, Bobi Wine. 76-year-old Museveni won 58.64% of the vote, with Bobi Wine trailing with 34.83%. Wine, a singer turned lawmaker whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi, earlier vowed to provide evidence of fraud in the polls. Reacting to the allegations, Yoweri Museveni says Thursday's poll may turn to be the most credible since 1962. India has launched one of the world's largest coronavirus vaccination drives. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who addressed healthcare workers through video conferencing, will not immediately take the vaccine himself, as India is initially prioritizing nurses, doctors and others on the front line. Here's more on this and other developments on our COVID-19 Global Update.
A sanitation worker became the first in India to receive a COVID-19 vaccine as the country began the world's largest inoculation drive. India, home to 1.3 billion, is aiming to inoculate about 300 million people by July. An estimated 10 million health workers will be vaccinated in the first round, followed by policemen, soldiers, and other frontline workers. Elsewhere in Asia, Pakistan has given emergency use authorization to the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca, making it the first to be approved nationally. In the UK, authorities say nearly 3.6 million people have received a first dose of coronavirus vaccine so far. The country is aiming to have given first doses of COVID-19 vaccines to 15 million people in high-risk groups by mid-February. Meanwhile, amid a surge in coronavirus cases and fatalities, from Monday, arrivals to the UK from all destinations must have proof of a negative COVID-19 test in the previous 72 hours and will be required to isolate in an effort to prevent the spread of any new variants of COVID. France has implemented a 6 p.m. curfew intended to help stem the spread of infections. COVID-19 has killed 70,000 people in France, the 7th highest death toll in the world, and the government is particularly worried about the more transmissible variant first detected in the UK, which now accounts for about 1% of new cases. In addition, from Monday, anyone travelling to France from outside the EU will have to show a negative COVID-19 test and self-isolate for a week upon arrival. And finally, China has built a 1,500-room hospital for COVID-19 patients in just 5 days after a spike of infections was reported in a city south of Beijing. The hospital is the first of 6 with a total of 6,500 rooms.
And the main news again. The military said that airstrikes by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Dole destroyed Boko Haram logistics base, including their armory in Nuwa, Borno State. This came as troops of the Nigerian army repelled an attack by the insurgents on Mate in the Bama area of Borno. Also today, members of the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria renewed their call for the release of their leader, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife. Plus, the incumbent president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, today on the country's presidential poll to extend his rule by another 5 years. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walkham. Have a good night.